Good evening, everybody. The September 26th Hibbing Public Utilities Commission meeting is called to order. All commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Babich. Next item will be adds or deletes. We have none. Move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes of the August 2nd, 2023 meeting. The wish of the commission.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Sanston, support by Commissioner Stokes to approve the minutes of the 22nd meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 4 is a citizens forum. We have been presented with anything, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Item 5A, approve invoices greater than 1,000 and approve the bills and ACH transfers dated August 9th through September 22nd, 2023. Item 5B, approve the payroll paid and overtime report for the August 24th and September 7th, 2023 pay date. Item 5C, ratify general manager conditional approval of LNS Electric, I believe, in the amount of $52,780 for transformer testing. Item 5D, approve change order number 1 for the power plant exterior painting. Item 5E, approve summary of the September 12, 2023 closed session general manager performance evaluation. Item 5F, approve resolution 21-23, authorizing Hibbing Public Utilities to make application to and accept funds from the Community Development Block Grant Program. Item 5G, authorize commissioners to attend the House bonding tour on September 28th. Item 5H, authorize commissioners to attend the Hibbing Renewable Energy Center Community Open House on October 12th. What would be the wish of the commission?
You have one more.
Whoop. Well, no.
If
the
you
same
want-
as the-
Same as before.
Above.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll move to approve the,
Possible.
that's okay. I'll move to approve the
Okay.
consent agenda.
I'll support.
Motion by Commissioner Sandsted, support by Commissioner Bayless to approve the consent agenda, items 5A through 5H. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to item number 6, financials and risk management. Item 6A, review and approve the interim August financials. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, included in your packet is the financials a month ended October 31st, and I believe we are joined by Baker Tilly over Zoom to present the financial update.
Thank you for this today. So we have in your packet the year-to-date August financial statement and motion, the statement of cash flow, as well as the actual and departmental revenue and expenses. One thing I do want to mention was that when I just mentioned a few things and then open it up to your questions you have any related to the financial statement. This doesn't give you transactions purchasing the remaining amount of the shares in the Orange Technology Authority. So you will notice the first thing we had to do with that transaction was to true asset investment from joint venture as of July 1st, which was the date of the transaction. So you will notice a non-cash expense on your income statement for equity and joint venture for about $481. Secondly, we do have an investment in joint venture showing on the balance sheet. What that represents is the total net position of the Laurentian Energy Authority. At year end, as of 12/31/2023, what we'll do in your year-end financial statements is those statements, the statements of the would be incorporated into the Commission's financial statements. And form as a blended component unit, and that investment in joint venture will go away. It's really only there as a placeholder until we can blend those statements into a financial statement for the year-end report. As the one item, I just wanted to point out that the transaction is incorporated. If you have any other questions related to the year-to-date financial statement, cash flow or budget action or any of the other schedules that we need to fulfill.
Thank you, Bethany. I think we had a problem hearing you for part of the update. And if I could summarize, can you hear us okay over the phone?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you
Um,
can. Sorry
and
about that.
So I think, Commissioners, Bethany talked about that the purchase of Laurentian Energy Authority has been fully included in the financials. There are some adjustments they'll be making at year end for how it rolls up as a consolidated piece and some amortization. So it's not quote unquote final, but it's all within our reporting right now. So Laurentian has been included in our monthly financial statements now going forward. Its bank account will be balanced regularly following the acquisition that became effective in July. So it's going well, and you can see the financial performance of the utility to date. We are on track and on budget for where we expect to be this time during the. Bethany, is there anything material I missed?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioners, and appreciate the update.
Thank you, Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve and put them on file.
I will support that motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Bass and support by Chair Hart to approve the interim August financials. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to item 6B, request for qualifications for a 2024 auditor. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, as I notified you here in the letter, after many years of auditing our financial statements, I looked back in the files. I think Bonnie Dosen, who is the president of Sterling Company, was auditing the public utilities financial statements as early as 1982 or 1983. So Jeff and Bonnie Sterl have been around a long time of our audits, and they notified us in August that they are going to try to take some time off slowly but surely. And very sad to see them go, but we also know over the course of their career they've certainly earned some reprieve from auditing our utility. That said, though, we have a need, and a generational one at that, to reach out and have a new auditor. And with that, I've asked Baker Tilly to help us do an RFP. They've already put together a list of some qualified firms that they think could participate in the audit. And with that in mind, Bethany, wondering if you can just talk to us about what to expect over the process?
I would love to. I've been through quite a few first-year audits. So we did, I did actually just send you a few comments on the request for proposal to consider before you send it out to the qualified firm. And then, you'll get a lot of, well, hopefully a lot of feedback from them. You'll get a lot of questions from them, hopefully. And then some very large proposals to read through and sift through to determine who would be the best fit for Hibbing. So we are ensuring that included in that RFP is some specific verbiage that the qualified firm has specific municipal utility experience, not only for government accounting standards, but specifically in the utility space and regulatory accounting, so they know your industry and know how you operate. And then, of course, you all get to go through and determine which one would be your best fit, both qualifications-wise and price-wise. I will say, you've gotten quite a bargain with Jeff and Bonnie. So I would suspect that the proposals you're getting will be a little bit of a jump price from what you've been paying the past years. So it's just something to preparing. Otherwise, a first-year audit is always a bit rough. Jeff and Bonnie know you very well, and they've been able to work pretty efficiently because of that. So it is a bit of a process, and it does take some time to learn a new firm and also for that new firm to learn operations and what to ask and how to go through the audit and get the information that they need. But, we're going to help them through that process, and then everyone, the utility will be very fulfilling and helpful as well. So is there any other specific questions you have related to the process at all, or anything else you want me to touch on?
Any questions for Bethany at this point? But I think if I could summarize, will be a new process for HPU to train in an auditor on our process and system. It's a good opportunity too for fresh eyes and look at things. Jeff and Bonnie, I spoke to them since a couple of times, and they've agreed to kind of help the transition if possible. So we're preparing for a more rigorous than normal audit this year because of the need to train in auditors in our processes. To keep the commissioners abreast of the RFP as we go along, and when it comes to finalists, if anyone's interested in meeting with them as well to help weigh in on the decision, happy to. So we'll keep posted.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that we go out for request for qualification for the 2024 auditor. There's support.
Second.
Motion by Chair Hart, support by Commissioner Stokes. Move forward with the request for qualifications for the 2024 auditor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, Hibbing Renewable Energy Center budget update and requested purchase. First item, approved purchase of Hibbing Renewable Energy Center fuel from Midwest Energy Resource Company in the amount of $76,750. Peterson.
Thank you, Chair. As you know, Midwest Energy is one of the exclusive providers of coal in this area, barring a full train purchase. Currently, we're expecting to need about 100 or 1,000 tons of coal, which would get through an emergency and all the way through the RADAs in the spring. So we think this is an adequate buffer to have in our plant for an emergency in the wintertime, with the option eventually to purchase more if we need it. But we think this is the reasonable amount to hold for the winter. And so with that in mind, I'd request your approval to purchase 1,000 tons of black coal through Midwest Energy Resources in the total amount of $76,750.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner, support by Commissioner Sandsted to approve purchase of coal from Midwest Energy Resource Company, amount of $76,750. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 2 under C, approve Heckam Mechanical for turbine generator 5 SRV access platform in the amount of $25,850. Mr. Peters?
Thank you, Chair Hart. If you recall, Mechanical has the millwright contract for the power plant, and the SRV valve, which stands for Safety Relief Valve, is one of the long lingering projects that have been in the works for a long time, and the valves are on place, ready to install, and this small fit will allow us to access the valves more safely and install them.
Motion to purchase.
That's it.
Go ahead.
No, I don't have anything. Making a motion.
I am making a
Okay.
motion.
Support.
I'll support it.
Motion by Commissioner Sandsted, support by Commissioner Bayless to approve the access platform to Heckenridge Mechanical in the amount of $25,850. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item. Items would be review engineer's recommendation of results of public bid 2023-23. Mr. Peters?
Thank you, Chair Hart, Commissioners, members of the public watching at home. Public Utilities went out for bid for turbine major 3 inspection, public bid number 2023-23. Bar Engineering wrote the bid specs and also compiled an analysis that we received late on Friday. I emailed it over and it's added to the packet for completion here. We received one bid by the deadline for the public bid opening, and that bid was presented from ST Cotter. It was one bid that was received on time. The bid review, to just paraphrase from Bar's letter, found 2 items in their bid that was not consistent with the bidding document as follows. It's written in there. There were some additions to the described bidding platform, and then some issues where they did not comply with their request for a 2-year warranty exactly. So with that in mind, Bar's recommendation is to reject the one bid that we received and rebid it, so we have compliant bids and make a bid recommendation on a rebid. So with that in mind, I do know we want to get this project completed. I think we have some efficiencies both with a bidder pool that received copies of the original one, and I would hope that we could quickly turn a rebid in a way that makes sense. So with that in mind, I would recommend the commission to reject all bids for public bid 2023-23 and rebid accordingly.
I'll make the motion to reject.
Okay, there's support.
I'll support it.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Bayless to reject the turbine generator number 3, major inspection and repairs bid. Any further discussion?
Chair.
Go ahead.
I just got a question, Andy. If we go through this bid process a few times and we keep getting the same, we don't have a qualified bidder, what do we do at that point? Can we just hire somebody, or do we have to just keep bidding?
Commissioner Bayless, members of the commission, to my understanding, you'd have to continue to bid until you get a qualified bid.
Okay.
And I read Mr. Sabinski's letter when the bidder who, my understanding is in this process, the particular where you got a bid in on time actually asked numerous number of questions with respect to the bid to make sure they understood everything. And they still offered a different warranty than what the contract specifically provided for, plus there were other discrepancies. I would recommend you follow your engineer's opinion, say that this is not the same thing as what's asked for, and to reject it. But has to question, this is one based on the value. You have to continue to go through the public bid process. So unfortunately, you're stuck hoping that someone will actually submit valid bids that you can accept.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move to item 6D, distribution project updates and related bids. First item will be authorized to call for bids for the distribution transformers. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Members of the commission, public watching at home, at the working session on September 12th, the commission received an update on the status and the health of our distribution transformers, and due to extensive supply chain issues, we know we need to replace the 4 and 5 substations that we have around town, and it will take some time to plan accordingly. The next 3 items for commission action are to go out for pub bids for those replacement transformers that will allow the electrical system in Hibbing to receive the higher voltage power coming in from the transmission side and then be stepped down to a lower voltage that we transmit locally within the system. We currently have 4 very solid transformers that have earned their retirement in the near future. So with that, we want to make sure we can continue to replenish our electric grid and have a very reliable service. These public bids will allow us the data to put together a full budget and a timeline for substation renewal throughout the service territory of Hibbing Public Utilities. So with that in mind, and just for the public who's at home, the substations are ultimately critical, not as visible to our outages as animals had been previously, but having reliable substation is absolutely critical to our electric supply. It will take some time because the transformers could be up to years out. So we need to plan accordingly and get moving on it. So this is the first step in that. And commissioners just know full well this is going out for bid, so we'll get some pricing from the process, and that will be incorporated into the 2024 capital budget once we understand exactly how much and when we can start to expect delivery of some of these electrical components.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
I'll make a motion to approve
Second.
bids for 2023-24.
Support.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner, support by Commissioner Sandsted to approve calling bids for the distribution transformers. Any further discussion? So all I'd like to add is my experience has been I ordered $50,000 worth of switchgear. It took a year to get. And then a couple months later, I ordered $500,000 worth of switchgear, and it showed up in 3 months. I'm just saying, so it's something to keep in mind.
Could be a long process.
Yeah, along or it could be weird. You know, we're waiting on some transformers for the pump station right now. And we were told in July and then called last month and they're gonna be there next month. So, you know, we expect some variability with the way supply chain is, but we also have horror stories. Long story short, we need to plan and get the equipment, and until we get it, we can't do anything.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, authorize to call for bids for the distribution substation switchgear and voltage regulators. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Members of the public, in addition to the transformers to make a substation work, you also need switchgear, which are the big switches that power on and off, essentially, and then also the voltage regulator to make sure voltage stays consistent throughout. It's also complex electrical gear that's tied up in the full supply chain and necessary for a full substation work. As Chair Hart had mentioned, there's a lot of variability in there, and to get going is high. So this is just a different component of that overall substation project. So, Commissioners, with that in mind, I'd recommend approving public bid 2003-25 and 26 for switchgear and voltage regulators respectively.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I'll make a motion to call for bids for the switchgear and voltage regulators.
Support.
Motion by Chair Hart, support by Commissioner Stokes to call for bids for the substation switchgear and voltage regulators. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item will be authorized to call for bids for the 2023 and 2024 vegetation management. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Another annual item that we do is to plan for our budget, our vegetation management for the next year, and for members of the public, this is the tree clearing around the power line, so squirrels and wildlife and branches don't interfere with your power supply. If you recall, our plan that we started in 2021, we started our large voltage 23 kV power feeds that sold the town. Then we went down to the 13.8 sections of town last year, and we cleared up 26 miles of line within Hibbing system last year. Now we're on the third phase of that, which is mostly 2,000 and some 4160 volt lines throughout town, including some back lot line areas that would go through the right-of-ways behind people's homes. So we're getting to, we've done the easy stuff. This is getting to the more difficult parts of our distribution system, and we're requesting an additional 26 miles of line to be cleared, with about half of that being 4160, about 2 miles, and then half of it being 2400. So that's what we would like to go out for bid for, and the way we're getting the bids back is that we will see which sections of town are costing what amount, and so that will allow us, based on the value of those bids, to determine what exactly are we going to go forward with recommending that the commission approve when we get bids back. So this is, and I'll just also mention that we've only had, within our service territory alone, we've only had one animal-related outage so far this year. I don't want to jinx it, I'll knock some wood, but that is a result of a lot of the vegetation management that has been done. It's also not an opportunity to stop. We got to keep going, and look forward to that. And you've also heard some talk about 2400 volt. That's the oldest voltage we have in Hibbing, and about a quarter of our system is that 2400 volt line. Eventually, we want to upgrade that to 13.8 kV. You know, and eventually, I would hope within the next 5 years, a portion of that. I'll just mention that this vegetation management is still necessary for us to be able to do those projects, to get into the access ways, because they're very overgrown and almost impossible to access right now. So whether we go underground in the future or continue overhead, the vegetation work is still necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. So I had a question at a work session, you know, we've had good results from the vegetation management, but I noticed that they were not clearing, all the phone lines that are on there and the cable TV, they didn't care about that, Mike. They were only clearing around the high voltage part. Is that gonna be our policy moving forward? Should it be our policy moving forward? Aren't they leasing space on all our poles? We adjust our lease rates to cover it?
Yes, yeah. Oh,
That I honestly don't know the correct answer.
Just, when I was noticing where they had cleared, I'm like, well, there's still lines, trees laying on top of phone lines.
Yeah, you could argue that if a tree fell on the comms, it would somehow damage the power cables too, or the pole itself.
I recall us having that conversation, the working session, and really, it should be a cost share by whoever's got something hanging from pole to pole. We should be discussing that with them. It should either be factored into the rent or they can pay a percentage of the bill, I agree, we should explore that, very much so.
well, Commissioners, you may have noticed I pulled the AT&T from the consent agenda that we previously published, and what I want to make sure we do is, look at some of these questions first. It's gonna be on a case-by-case basis on the feeder too, and some vegetation management that I've not been happy with, and I've been back and looked at it. It was actually a sort of just telephone cable too. So, I think what we want to be clear about with what are we paying for, making sure we're getting it reimbursed, is on those shared poles, getting that. The beauty of doing these small sections of town with the detail we have through our growing GIS system is we can actually see how much of a CenturyLink or a Mediacom run there, like to cut down every single tree under a power line in town, but over time.
Can we maybe find out if anybody else does that, if anybody cotters
With
that
the telecoms?
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
and we might as well not try to reinvent the wheel. If we plagiarize the language from somebody else, we might as well.
The distance, we will have the most restrictive or the widest area to clear just because of voltage.
Yep.
Things. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Cool.
Do we still need a motion on that, or do we approve that one?
We had a motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve it.
Okay, I'll support that. We have a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Chair Hart to call for bids for the 2023 and 2024 vegetation management. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item E, water projects. First item. Award public bid 2023-21 Southview Water Supply Protection Project to Bagalis Incorporated in the amount of $174,995. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, we went out for bid, as we discussed in August, for the Southview redundant loop, and this is to put in a 5-foot loop of 8-inch water line that would allow Southview Apartments to have a redundant water supply. If you recall, in the month of July and August, we had 2 outages there at a relatively hot time of year where the entire neighborhood up there was without water for over a day. And the short, a no-brainer solution was to put in this redundant feed so that they would get water from the main that is relatively close by in the event that the access along 169 main line was interrupted, and we know that that has some future repairs needed there. So this redundant loop was necessary for that. We went out for bid, and we received 1 bid from Bagalis, and given the time of the year that we're at, and also the familiarity with the project already, we are recommending going forward with with plus in the amount of $174,000. And this is about what budgeted for the project.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I'll make a motion to approve the bid to Begala's Construction. Is there support?
Support.
We have a motion by Chair, support by Commissioner Sandsted to award the water line to Begala Construction, the amount of $174,995. Any further discussion? None. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item under water, authorized request qualifications, evaluation scoring matrix for Seymour Water Treatment Plant review.
Thank you, Chair Hart. As we discussed, Commissioners, at the working session on September 12th, the process with the construction risk manager for the water treatment plant is to go out to bid for the main trade work for the water treatment plant project. Because Rice Lake effectively our construction manager and general contractor for this, they will be doing the bidding process independently after we authorize the request for qualifications and approve the vendors meet the minimum spec in the request for qualifications. And so with that, the RFQ instructions and initiation process is here before you for approval, and this will kick off that process so we can start honing down to the qualified firms that will be able to bid on the project of the South Water Treatment.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. I guess I got one question. You know, the last page, ultimately the points that are scored, what does that do?
So your question is what does that do? So these are the points that the folks, or the firms that will be responding to the RFQ will be evaluated by. And so they will be evaluated by a team of our engineer and the construction risk manager. And that qualification score will be presented to the Public Utilities Commission for approval. So right here, we're saying that the average score of 7 points is required to be included. So if somebody does not score 70 points, they won't be invited to participate in the process.
Is there any monetary value with those points? If one's scored at 100 and one's scored at 90, is the person scored at 100, is the business scored at 100 have a monetary advantage? If I can answer what I know When
is
I
that,
say, I mean, maybe they don't have to be low bid, they scored 100 points. Is there anything tied to that system?
no, they're not. So this is just to select the short list. So that they will be scored solely on the merits of the firm. And so once they become scored by this process, they will be invited to bid. And that's where the monetary portion comes in. So this is merely a qualification of how qualified are they to bid on our projects. And once we're saying here, minimum score of 70 points, we would get to review which firms responded in and who scored at that point. And if we had any questions on scoring, we could ask. But there is no monetary difference at this point. This is just to who's qualified to perform this. And of course, with this is the implicit assumption that the well-scored folks will be best qualified to provide the best bids. So I think that's how I read into the CMAR process steps we have. And
I would agree with Mr. Peterson's analysis with respect to, just a question to answer. Yes, that this is just to say, do you hit the thresholds? How high as long as you get over the threshold, you might be better, but it's be up to, here's the bottom line. If you're below this, you can't bid it.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
I've seen it done other ways.
so to follow it through, just as if you scored 70 points and somebody scored 90 points, when you submit for the project in the next process, it doesn't matter if you scored on this process, as long as you got in.
I'll make a motion to approve the RFQ scoring matrix.
Support. Go ahead.
Motion by Chair Hart, support by Commissioner Stowe to approve the scoring matrix for water plant bidding. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to item number 7, policy and governance. Item 7A, approve hiring of John Babish for heat crew mechanic. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Members of the commission and public, we've had an advertising for external candidates for the heat crew mechanic. We interviewed 2 candidates. John Babish reached the finalist round, and we are pleased with his background and safety experience, and we would like to welcome him with commission approval as the newest hire on the heat crew, pending satisfactory background check, drug screen.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Motion to approve the hiring.
Support. We have a motion by Commissioner Sandsted and support by Commissioner Bayless to hire John Fish for heat crew mechanic apprentice position. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead,
is this based on approval of the drug screening and stuff? Don't you?
Yeah, right.
Yes. Absolutely.
Mr. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Do you have any old or new business that needs to be brought before the commission? You stood up, Elliot.
Yep.
We're good?
We are good.
Okay. If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All support. We have a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Chair Hart to adjourn the meeting. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody.